Welcome to Behind the Podium, Unveiling the Coach. Problem solvers have problems too. So here at Behind the Podium, I, Jared Cohen, and my co-host Alexander Ellis discuss the struggles, philosophies, demands, and practices of the coach, or said more broadly, health and wellness practitioner. To provide quality coaching is to enhance someone's life in an everlasting and unfolding way. This is not easy and requires a lot of due diligence and self-mastery on the part of the coach to be able to perform. So without further ado, join us as we dig deeper into the depths of the coach's mind.
Welcome back, or welcome to Behind the Podium, Unveiling the Coach. I am Jared Cohen with my partner in crime,
Alexander Ellis.
And today we are going behind the podium with a coach, movement connoisseur, business owner, author, martial artist, and ambassador of ambition and continual growth and improvement. Specifically, this guest of ours owns and coaches at Ambition Athletics in Encinitas, California, has written the following books: Ultimate Athleticism, Simple Shoulder Solution, and Master the Kettlebell, and most recently has birthed the 5-Minute Flow Revolution. Without further ado, it is mine and Alex's pleasure to welcome Max Shank to Behind the Podium. Max, thanks for hanging out.
Having me. Appreciate that. One hell of an introduction.
Thank you. I was impressed with it myself.
I kind of want to meet this guy now.
I know, right? But to your credit, you did the stuff, and I just wordsmithed it. So,
well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. What is going on in your day to day? I know you recently got back from Germany, I believe, doing one of your seminars. Are you kind of quick to just go back to normal routine, or do you have a sort of decongesting process or a period of time?
Yeah, I'm not really a good example. I usually kind of hit the ground running when I get back. Coming back from Europe is always tough because of the time difference. But, right. When I get back, I usually am just going back into the gym and getting to work the next day. I'll usually take whatever afternoon or evening I have left completely off and just relax and play a little music and try to get to bed early. But other than that, I like to kind of hit the ground running when I come back.
Yeah. Keep it. Try and keep the routine not too distant.
Well, yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, when you have a routine, or when you have something that you want to accomplish, but at the same time you kind of don't want to do it. Like, you want to get it done, but you don't want to do it. I find that that's when you need to do it the most.
Right.
So when you least want to, do your stretches in the morning, or when you least want to jump in freezing water, is when you need to do that the most. And that kind of that behavior trait sort of permeates into the rest of your life, I think. So when you want to do it the least, that's probably when you need to do it the most.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think, too, with travel, because I found, not necessarily to the European length of travel, but anytime you travel, to hit the ground and do some sort of activity when you get there can really help to, or at least for me, adjust, time zones. Do you do that as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I have a couple strategies when I travel at this point. I've done, I don't know, I think I've gone to Europe like somewhere north of 20 times at this point, teaching seminars. And wow. What I don't do is I don't do any really heavy lifting the first day after I get there. So I basically give my I give myself like a 36-hour pass on anything really heavy, but I try to do just a lot of push-ups and pull-ups and some like sprints or running and a lot of the flow movement stuff, and that seems to make a really big difference.
Just kind of regulate you to the change in time zone and travel, and just feel like you're in control of your time in a foreign place.
Yeah, and then as far as the jet lag's concerned, I usually try to get there in, and I'm really tired by the end of the day, so I can get on a schedule better that way.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have any pre-performance type of routines that you do before starting a seminar for the day or weekend?
Just my normal morning mobility, the 5-minute flow type of stuff. And other than that, I usually skip breakfast before I teach a seminar, so I'm not loaded down with a lot of food. And other than that, nothing. I mean, if I have access to a guitar or piano, I'll try to play some music before, but other than that, it's...
I was going to say, you did mention the 5-minute flow as part of your preparation for a presentation. Can you tell us a little bit more about the 5-minute flow for those who don't know?
Sure. Basically, I was trying to think of what could help the most people with the least amount of barriers. So really, 5-minute flow was born out of me getting a better understanding of behavioral psychology and habit formation, because I had spent so many years putting together these programs for people only to have them not even do them and sometimes not even start. And so 5-minute flow is a really simple concept. You wiggle all your joints. You make some circles with all your joints right after you wake up in the morning. So that habit is triggered by you waking up in the morning. And then after you're done with that, you reward yourself with a nice big glass of water. Can you guys hear that plane?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, we'll probably do that part over. That's wow. That never happens. That plane was flying just above the trees.
Wow.
Whoa.
And that never happened. So thanks a lot, jerk. All right. So as I was saying, let's see, where should we go? Let's go from the top. The 5-minute flow was born out of a better understanding of behavioral psychology and habit formation. So the idea was, how do I help as many people as possible with no barriers to that habit? So for example, if you have to drive 55 minutes to the gym, that's a barrier. If you have to buy a $7,000 piece of equipment, that's a barrier. So the combination of some morning movement for 5 minutes, and it really actually doesn't matter what you do at first. It just matters that you start. And then rewarding yourself with a big cup of water is also a fantastic way to start the day. So movement, breathing, and a glass of water, in my opinion, is the smartest way you can spend 5 minutes to make the entire rest of your day better, because morning exercise, apart from just being good for your orthopedic health, is also what's considered a keystone habit. So it makes people more likely to follow through with healthy eating and additional exercise throughout the day. So for almost no time investment or effort, it can make the most profound change in a person's life.
Yeah, and I love that idea of just do it. I watched a video on your website where you're talking about the 5-minute flow idea and how creativity can be a part of it too. And I think some people are so afraid of like, oh, well, I'm doing it wrong, or, is this really beneficial? It's like, no, just move. You were designed to move. Just trust yourself and do it.
I couldn't agree more. That's actually been one of my main struggles, because I have gotten emails and messages blowing up my inbox for a product related to 5-minute flow. And really the whole idea was that there doesn't need to be one.
Yeah.
You just move for 5 minutes and breathe. And, I'll give you some ideas, but many people need it explicitly spelled out. And I think it's just that that's what we're used to. But if you take the time, and what I do understand, and I did put a video together for people that's going to be coming out in December likely, people need to understand the components. But after you understand the components, then I really encourage people to put it together in a wide variety of ways. If you take 5 different movements, you can come up with thousands of different sequences and combinations just between those 5 movements, depending on whether you repeat a movement or sequence through them in varying orders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really appreciate your approach to coaching and teaching, for that matter, which is holding to your standard of what you think and feel is going to have the most positive outcome for whomever you're working for, beyond just that momentary result, and so much so that holding to that standard is difficult because you're met with a lot of resistance from people that are looking for easy answers or want to commercialize it, and perhaps give people what they think they want versus what they don't know they need or will in fact benefit from.
Well, absolutely. And that's something that I've struggled with. And ultimately, if you want to help the most people, you need to get their attention somehow. So sometimes it's necessary to put something together that, I don't want to say placates, but almost placates the consumer into giving them, but then it allows you the opportunity to introduce what they need.
Yeah, you always, we want to meet people where they're at. And then, I think as coaches, sometimes we have another agenda that we can sneak in, and then, the clients will totally buy into what we're trying to help them with.
Oh, without a doubt. And I think a lot of, I'm assuming your audience is mostly, one of the other problems I see happen sometimes is when coaches imprint their own goals onto their clients when that's really not even what the client's interested in.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
You have all these personal trainers trying to have all their clients back squat huge amounts of weights because the trainer likes lifting heavy weights.
Yeah.
But the client pretty much couldn't care less. They just want their back to not hurt and to have a better butt. You know what I mean? So it's really interesting how there's such a disconnect sometimes. And I think that just comes, chalk it up to inexperience or immaturity.
Yeah, that's definitely been one of my frustrations with CrossFit. And I remember Jill Miller, creator of Yoga Tune-Up, saying from one of the early courses I took of hers that, her loyalty is to biomechanics, not yoga. And it was that kind of same concept of, by being loyal to biomechanics, she could be in best or better service to the client's needs, however they may present themselves, as opposed to forcing people into positions just because that's the sort of what the tribe says you're supposed to do.
Right. Well, groupthink is dangerous, whatever level it's on, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be positive groupthink. Like, I think it's good that we all think murder is a bad idea.
Yeah.
We're
doing well
generally
with that
that's
one.
pretty good.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting. Imagine if all the other societal norms were the same, except it was 100% legal to murder anyone anytime.
Right. That's interesting.
It would be very interesting society we live in, but we all agree that murdering is bad and we'd rather not murder each other. So groupthink can be good, or it can be really messed up and cause a lot of problems.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, that's quite the extremes there. What do you think contributes to negative groupthink?
Ignorance, for sure.
Yeah.
I think also attention span, unfortunately.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, that's a big one.
there's this book on copywriting called Write Everything Right. And it's WRITE and then RIGHT, by Dennison Hatch. And apparently, as of the writing of that book, which I think is like 2015 or 2014, 85% of people make up their mind about something after reading the headline and do no further research.
That's a lot of percent.
You know, like if you write an article says the plank is the worst exercise ever, 85% of the people who see that are going to just think that planks are bad now and not actually do anything to confirm or deny that theory. So then you get into like Twitter and Instagram and all these things where a person's short attention span is no longer a disability. Mm-hmm. And then that's now where they're getting all their information. And you have some people who are putting out good information through those medium. But then you also, because it's so brief, a good-looking idiot can hide their ignorance within 30-second to 1-minute clips or 3 sentences. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yes.
So
I find
think,
so. I mean, I see that too, and I find it so frustrating because it's like people will flock to somebody, and you're like, "What are you even talking about?"
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but I think the main thing as a coach is to go learn in person from people who have actually coached people. Mm. It's like I swear to God, these 20-year-old kids who are business consultants are a dime a dozen right now. And they all learned how to be a business consultant from some guy who was selling an info course on being a business consultant. So it's this weird like shell game where no one has actually ever made any real money in anything but selling people on how to sell business consulting.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who is saying all of that.
Yeah, well, it's a sad reality. But, it's good, though, because as you get better, as you get smarter, you are able to more easily identify what that looks like and avoid it. And I think that's just the natural course of one's professional career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Do you how much time would you say you consume of the social media for purposes not related to your business as a coach or professional, but to try and consume information from people that you actually respect or admire, or just trying to get other ideas? Is there any of it? Is there some?
Yeah, it's interesting you asked that, because if you'd asked me that a year ago, I would have said that social media is basically the end of civilization as we know it.
Right.
And in a certain sense, I think it still is, because even though we're more connected cerebrally through that media, we're connected less and less emotionally and physically. However, it's not just cat videos and people getting kicked in the balls on the internet.
Right.
There is some good stuff out there. The nice thing about social media is that you can decide what you want to follow ahead of time.
Right.
So it's really just organizing who you want to pay attention to. So rather than, going to check a person's website every week or so and trying to have a schedule and try to remember all the people who you think have valuable information, you just like that page, for example. So right. I do the same thing. I try to put out a lot of high quality information on my page and people follow it. And then I do the same with other people as well. So I think it really depends how you use it, quite frankly. I think that everyone should have the right to choose what they want to do with their time, with their money, all that good stuff. And some people are going to choose to spend it, let's just say, in limbo watching cat videos, and some people are going to use the amazing power of the internet to educate themselves.
Yeah.
So I would say, to answer your question, finally, I would say that I probably spend somewhere in the ballpark. It depends. I'll basically make a quick glance at what I've selected to pay attention to through my professional page, and it depends if there's something good. If there's something good, I might read an article and go down a rabbit hole of learning some new things for a half an hour to an hour. But I won't just scroll through recreationally.
Yeah.
It's basically channel surfing, just with even shorter attention span.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And I haven't had TV for a couple of years at this point.
Yeah, I know personally. I continue to struggle with the amount of time I'm spending in those mediums, and it's a little bit of this back and forth because I do make a very deliberate effort to only follow quality content to the extent that I rarely follow friends or family. I try to keep it more sort of business or hobby related, that including music. But mainly so that, because I'm always blown away when I look at some people's pages and they're following upwards of even 1,000 people. And so I've always made it a point to try and stay under a certain number. Nonetheless, while still being inspired and intrigued by certain content and giving me new ideas, it's still that slippery slope where too much time there just really sucks the creativity out of me. And then I'm kind of asking myself, would I've been better off just staying sort of one-dimensionally in a piece of content, whether that was a book or a video or a long-form article, as opposed to the channel surfing.
Yeah, and once again, the answer is it could be either one. Acquiring information just needs to have like a goal.
Yeah.
So I'm sure as long as what you're doing is part of the bigger picture plan, then it's productive. But if it's not, then it's...
Yeah, definitely, and setting some of that intention out from the get-go.
Yeah, and I think we all definitely make decisions about how we want to spend our time. So it's just being conscious and aware of, maybe I do want to sit here and scroll through and look at cat videos, and that's fine, but that's the decision that I'm making, rather than just mindlessly, tuning out.
It's interesting you say that about time. One of my favorite sayings is that killing time is just as stupid as burning calories. and I think this idea is, both of these ideas are so perverse, because number one, killing time right by itself is such a horrible concept, because time is the one thing we can never get back anyway. Like time is already dying without your help. So when I hear the phrase, "Oh, I'm just going to kill some time," or "I'm just killing time," I lose my fucking mind, and I want to accelerate the process for that person and kill them myself, because that's such a stupid idea. Because time is already ticking away. You don't need to extra kill it. And it's the same as the idea of burning calories, because it's so missing the point. You can invest time, or you can spend time, just the way that you can invest calories or spend calories. The whole idea that you need to burn off the life-giving energy that you have for no real good reason is silly, because there are so many things that utilize calories you don't have to select something that you either hate or is stupid just because it happens to use those calories. So there are so many good ways that you can spend or invest calories. The idea of just burning them to burn them, to me, is the same as killing time, which, quite frankly, both are completely idiotic.
Yeah, I love what you're hitting on, which is something Alex and I have spent a lot of time thinking about and talking about, which is the language, and sort of being pretty strict about taking a stance against some of this language that in a lot of ways is unconscious. It's unintentional. It has the same mindlessness as picking up your phone and scrolling through Instagram and not even realizing it. And then potentially what is important about becoming aware and arresting and removing some of these phrases or verbiage that we use that are insidiously affecting our relationship with the world, and more so affecting our relationships with those that we're coaching. You know, if we're using these words that, hey, I need you to burn more calories, or hey, we're going to kill some time right now. What are the unintended consequences of that language?
Well, and there's almost nothing that encompasses this idea better than that new gym orange theory.
Yeah.
The whole thing is about how many calories you burn.
Right.
That's the whole thing. You're going to burn all these calories, and all their estimates are completely stupid, and inaccurate. It's very unlikely. But once again, this is the nature of the world, right? If someone's trying to sell shit, they're going to lie, because people have been marketing things for so long that the consumer now expects a $10 toaster to also write your science experiments.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then the fact that their meal plan has people consuming as few as 710 calories in a day.
It's
it's
killing
really
their time on Earth.
It's actually killing them. I mean,
Yeah,
that's like, we laugh about it, but I'm dead serious. You're going to damage someone's metabolism to the point where they can't even function like a human being.
Yeah.
I have a friend, Dr. Chris Hardy. He, in his book, talks about stress, and it's a simple concept. You have a stress cup. And if you have stress at work, stressful job, stress at home, or whatever, you can't combine that with an extremely stressful workout. And you sure as hell shouldn't combine that with probably what is a 1,300 to 2,000 caloric deficit. It's mind-boggling. But I think a lot of people are going to suffer some medium to long-term problems from combining really high intensity exercise with no purpose,
Right,
with extreme caloric deficits. I think so.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And then there's also just like in general, I feel like this idea that, it's gotta hurt to work, and you have to be like dead on the floor for it to even count at all.
Oh yeah. Well, if you're not in your target heart rate zone, you might as well just go home, right? You're not even doing anything.
Throw in the towel, man.
God forbid you go for a fuck.
Yeah. And okay, so for those of us who are, actually stating fact and trying to meet people, with truth, what do you use to be able to keep up when you just see all this? I mean, because I find it incredibly frustrating to be surrounded by all this bullshit, and people are like falling over one another to get to that. So how do you, stay your path?
Well, you can't worry about the people who choose a different path, because I don't believe that anyone can like take clients. It's possible to lose clients, but it's also possible for clients to just find something that suits them better.
Yeah.
If someone at my gym wanted to go, do some sort of high intensity workout with no calories and just running listlessly on a treadmill for an hour, That's their personal choice. I'm not going to knock them for that. What I'm going to continue to do is make the priorities be movement, gaining strength and skill over time, habit that will give you an awesome body and make you have a lot more energy and just improve the quality of life in general. But there are so many more important things, like what I just said, than just burning calories or losing pounds, which, both are kind of dead end goals, in my opinion.
Yeah. When I moved out here to San Diego from the Inland Empire and was coming out of having spent 3 years working at this one CrossFit gym and wanted to see what else was out there, I actually took a Barry's boot camp class, which is essentially a parallel to Orange Theory, and it was depressing, just what was going on there, and what was even more depressing was talking to I wouldn't even call him a coach afterward, but the trainer, and how he described himself as not even a trainer, but
he's a cheerleader,
an enter trainer.
Which, that's even better.
Which is the first time I heard that term, and it honestly like broke my heart a little bit.
And that is a byproduct of the society we live in, where it's that instant information, and the shorter the attention span, the more outrageous you need to be just to grab some person's attention. I mean, I've actually heard the term infotainment as well. So you have an enter trainer and you have infotainment. And, it's enough to make you want to curl up into a ball and just cry yourself to sleep at the demise of humanity. But I think that you're still going to have a portion of the population who doesn't want that nonsense. And that's who you try to help. Because one of the things I've realized is that some people you just can't help. Really it's everybody, because you have to help yourself, but you can't waste your time trying to convince the people who are resistant to the idea the most. And I think that comes across in my coaching style when I'm working with clients at the gym and also with workshops.
Yeah.
I'm here to present some information and tell you what the cause and effect is going to be of that information. And it's up to you to decide if you want to do it or not. And I'm not going to get personally invested if you decide, you don't want to do that. Hey, it's up to you. I'm just going to present what I believe is the most effective way to make you healthier and stronger. Simple as that. And you can either take it or leave it. And I think that that's probably the most sane attitude to have if you want to maintain your sanity in the sea of distractions and infotainment and enter trainers.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess just being able to stay focused on what you're doing as best as possible and not get caught up in those that you can't help, or like you said, those that don't want it in the first place.
Right. What's that saying? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Yeah.
Yep. No truer words have been spoken.
a lot of those little sayings are really holding true and standing the test of time.
Yeah, it's impressive. So, speaking more specifically to your gym, your business, Ambition Athletics, I'm curious, what are the core values of Ambition? And I'm reading this book for my MBA called The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni, which I highly recommend to anyone, not just coaches or not just business people, but it's really fascinating in terms of helping someone think about what makes a healthy organization. And we're all a part of organizations, so it really hits home. And I bring it up because he draws this distinction between a business's core values, which he refers to as the behavioral traits that are inherent in an organization, and they lie at the heart of an organization's identity, be it that they don't change over time and they must already exist, versus aspirational values, which are those characteristics that an organization wants to have, wishes it already had, and is working to attain. And I think it's an interesting distinction because I would argue that a lot of organizations perhaps maybe don't really have a sense of core values and are constantly sort of talking about the things they want to do better, but have lost sight of what really makes them unique.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've made so many mistakes as a business owner that I can't even really count them all. But I think the main thing is that as long as everyone is trying to constantly improve, that has to be the foundation and cornerstone. If people are willing to admit their mistakes and they're willing to correct them, I think that's by far the most important. One of the things I have my trainers make a very special point of doing when they're working with people is if they don't know an answer, they need to say, I don't know, but I can go find out.
Yeah.
And I think that many people get caught trying to, or maybe worried that they need to know everything. So they almost feel compelled to make something up. And I think that's a really negative trait. The other thing is you got to all be working toward the same goal. So everyone has to be constantly wanting to improve, and everyone has to be moving in the same direction. And if someone's not moving in the right direction, they got to join a different team who's going to move in their direction. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are kind of the foundation. And then more recently, just in the last 3 to 5 months, there was this great book called Extreme Ownership by these two Navy SEALs, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. And I thought that was fantastic, how they drew parallels to combat operations and running a business organization.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen a major change in myself from reading that one. So that's probably the most influential book I've read in at least the past year, and possibly longer if I think about it more.
And oh, sorry, go ahead, Alex.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I totally agree because Jocko has been on Tim Ferriss's podcast a few times. And his advice to prioritize and execute about, figure out what you're going to do and then just do it. And it was so simple. I was like, oh, and that really helped me as well move forward with my business.
So going back to ambition for a second or so, I'm curious what you were looking for in the coaches you hired in the beginning, and if that criteria has changed in, I believe, the 8 or 9 years you've been in business, and if so, what are you looking for now?
Originally, I wanted people with what I thought was solid coaching skills, like coaching experience, understand exercise as well as possible. So I prioritized that trait at the expense of other traits. Now, I can see a big difference from some of the first people I hired versus the two most recent ones. And I really put a high value on really two things. I want someone who's willing to learn and willing to work. And I want someone who's charismatic as a coach, because unfortunately, that's just one of those things that you can't teach. So you're in the service business, and you're potentially asking people to spend 3 hours per week with you.
Yeah.
And do you have a best friend?
Yeah.
Okay. How often? How many hours a week do you spend with him or her?
Well, this best friend is not in the same state, but we do communicate over the phone at least a couple hours a week.
Great. So if you're going to see a personal trainer, let's say you're going to do one-on-one or group training or whatever, you're basically signing on to be best friends with that person.
Yeah.
Because you're going to see them more than you see almost anybody else in your life. You really like that person, and that person better be a positive influence, let's just say emotionally, or at least as far as your happiness is concerned. Even if someone's the best coach in the world, if they have a really negative attitude, no one's going to want to train with them. So I think that you need to have willingness to learn. You need to have charisma, and maybe even more importantly is you need to get things done on time and just prove that you can accomplish tasks.
Yeah.
So yeah, a little bit different now, but it's definitely a learning process. So it's good.
Fascinating. Do you have so you wear a lot of different hats professionally. Do you have a favorite? If you could only do one, would it be the books? Would it be running the gym, doing seminars?
So that's an interesting question. I've asked myself this question quite a few times. I'm not really sure. A lot of time in airports and on airplanes, and it's not the worst thing, but it definitely wears you down a little bit.
Yeah.
I also love coaching people, so that's why I still coach people. I do feel that all of my other projects interfere with each other a little bit, because of course, if I could just focus all my energy on one thing, I would likely get a better result in that one thing. But as it is right now, from, let's say, a fulfillment, also from a financial standpoint, my various businesses are kind of equal. Can you guys hear that plane?
Yeah, that's okay.
All right, start over.
Do you live close to an airport?
No. I've just
It's
had
just today.
2 planes fly directly over my house
So
at
bizarre.
very low altitudes. I swear this never happens. Like, I'm not even messing with you.
It's usually a plane-free zone.
And they're like those propeller planes too. They're not even jets. They're just like, they got this like loud little propeller. The last one had 2 wings, like 2 sets of wings, double stacked. Okay, so basically,
Fulfillment.
yeah, as far as all of my different jobs are concerned, as far as professional reward and then also personal fulfillment, they're kind of equal on both of those fronts. So I'm I guess maybe too much of a coward to give one up, because I really like doing all of them, but I recognize that I could likely get a better result if I focused on just one thing. Fortunately, I have a great general manager, Mike Baltrin at Ambition Athletics, who really makes the gym run smoothly. So that's allowed me to at least be hands off in the day-to-day operations, so I can focus more on acquiring new members and that sort of thing for the gym. And then, of course, it's not easy to sell books and workshops. So you have to just be, my way to do that is just to be constantly giving out really good information. So it's not such a difficult decision for people to buy a book or take a workshop with me. So kind of like the reciprocity thing, but on steroids. I kind of try to give about 95% away, and then 5% of the time I'll occasionally sell you something that'll be in a nice, very easy to use package.
What do you think drives you to want to reach so many, reach a global population, reach people you don't even have, like that, most of which you'll never actually have a personal relationship with, versus just continuing to kind of build all that within your gym space?
I don't know why I feel this, but I do feel a compulsion, or at least a desire, to spread the word of how good a person could feel.
Yeah.
Because I think so many people, and I've actually heard people say this to me, that they were feeling bad
Mhm.
until they realized how good they felt after they started taking care of their flexibility and building strength. You know,
Yeah.
these are things that are so critically important to being a human being, but we've really gone far away from that in favor of other activities. You know, I look at the average amount of TV that people watch, and it just makes me sad.
Mhm.
We've just really deviated so far from what humans are capable of, both physically and then also in some cases intellectually. And I really, you know, I don't want to blame anybody because everyone has their choice of how they want to spend their time. But I just blame the readily availableness of food
Mm.
and entertainment.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at the way the poorest person can live now, they
Yeah.
can live the same way that a king used to 100, 200 years ago. You know, you
Yeah.
sit on your couch, which is basically a throne, and you can have food delivered to your door inexpensively.
Yeah.
It's really unbelievable. So I think that's where my drive comes from. Is, you know, people have strayed so far away from, you know, a more natural path, and for whatever reason, I really want to help people overcome that because I think it causes a lot of problems and conflict ultimately.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. You know, this is what I connect to as well. This idea of helping people, helping people find that realm of what they don't know. They don't know,
Hmm.
Mhm.
and that's been my struggle in this fitness, health, and wellness business because so many people are peddling what they know people want, and they're playing to what people know they know. And you know what you're talking about is, man, to have the experience with someone who's basically saying like I didn't know I felt like I didn't know I was feeling bad until I felt how, you know, how good I could feel. That's
Right.
such an earth shattering thing, and um, it's definitely hard to get there, especially when there is no self awareness that the person is then using to select your services, but to be of the ninja sort to help them uncover that is really really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you on that one for sure.
All right, well let's move towards the conclusion of this episode with some rapid fire questions. We'll hopefully try to avoid planes in the process.
You're gone.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay, okay. So we're gonna do a little rapid fire. Um,
Fire away.
Max, what does it mean to you to practice what you preach?
Uh, that almost seems like you answered the question itself, but I'll take a crack at it, I guess. I guess if you say that something is important, you do it.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, simple as that.
Yeah. Followed up. Followed up. Uh, what is your biggest coaching pet peeve? So we this episode we've circled around a lot of them. I think for all of us, I'm curious what really is that number one thing that irks you.
Oh man, I'm trying to decrease the amount of irk in my life, but I would say it's the trainers who clearly just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
probably the worst because at least if someone's trying, even if they're stupid, at
Mm,
least they're trying.
right.
You know, you can't get mad at people for being stupid forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although if you're a professional, you should take the time to get familiar with how to be a better coach. But you know, I've gone to gyms where I see a personal trainer texting during a session,
Oh yeah.
Oh,
and
it drives
and
me crazy.
I want to just I want to take the cell phone and then shove it down his throat. Honestly, it's such a horrible disrespect to that other person who's paying you money for you to not even watch them. It would be the same if someone said, hey, I'll give you $20 if you watch my suitcase for me while I go to the bathroom or something.
Yeah.
And then they get back and the suitcase is missing. And they're like, what happened? Oh, well, I was texting. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a great analogy.
Yeah. So, and that comes back to, following through. So kind of the same theme there.
Yeah. I've always, in that same vein, it's always bothered me a little bit with certain programming at gyms when they program a lot of running, not because I'm against running, but because running requires the clients to be out of the coach's eyesight.
Right.
So now you're increasing the amount of time that you can't see them, and therefore you can't coach them. And then why are they paying you? They can run without you. So
But they're burning so many calories.
Burning tons of calories.
yeah, right. And that's the problem again, because now you're appealing to what they believe is the correct way.
Right. It's the same as when you see a trainer just have their client lunge up and down the hall till their legs fall off. It takes no skill to do that. That's frustrating. It's just trainers who don't care. That's all.
What's so on the flip side, what's a favorite coaching memory?
Ooh, favorite coaching memory. I gotta say, and it's kind of outside the realm of coaching, but if you're really interested in helping people, you'll be willing to learn more to help them. I think being a good coach or being a good entrepreneur or whatever is about being a problem solver.
Yeah.
So I worked with this woman who was 40 years old. She had gone through some really traumatic personal experiences, and that also coincided with a major car accident that left her to the point where she had to walk with a cane. And she couldn't pick up anything off the floor. She couldn't bend over forward. Really just horrible back pain. She had seen every therapist, doctor, neurologist, and chiropractor under the sun for several years. She came in to see me, and by the third session, she was able to pick up her car keys off the ground, and she started crying. And what we did was actually a combination of talking through some of the emotional trauma she was dealing with and relating it back to breathing and movement again. And that was probably the greatest coaching moment, if I had to pick a moment.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow.
Beyond that, I just I get jazzed when people do a pull-up for the first time or a handstand for the first time or something like that. When someone works toward a skill and then achieves that skill, I think that's just awesome, because just to totally ruin your rapid fire point
no worries.
by being super long-winded right now, I've had several ladies come into the gym overweight, stay overweight a little bit. I mean, they've lost weight obviously, but stay overweight but gain strength and new skills and be extremely happy with the results. And I think that's so important.
Yeah.
Because when you put all of the emphasis on how many pounds you lost, you miss the whole point of what it means to be a human being. I don't care if a woman weighs 180 pounds. If she can bang out 3 pull-ups and do a handstand and is happy, that's what's important.
Yeah.
So that's so that basically.
Love it. Any topic, fitness, nutrition, or psychology related that has you most on the fence in your current practice? Something you're
on the fence.
Yeah, that you're unresolved about, been mulling over. You're not really sure where it ends up.
Probably cold therapy.
Yeah.
I actually have an advanced copy of Wim Hof's new book that I'm working through.
Cool.
I bought his program before Coincidentally, I was also in my pool last night at midnight, unheated, of course.
Yeah.
So I do like the benefits that I get personally in the short term afterward. I feel good and invigorated and energized and all that good stuff. And it's also not a bad opportunity to check out the stars. But the cryotherapy places where you go in like a cryo chamber for a few minutes.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's it. I think it's got to be, combined with that breathing, and it's got to be done probably a little bit longer.
Right.
And I think the tissue needs to be more saturated. So I'm undecided. I'm on the fence. I'm actively trying to experiment myself and learn more about it. And I think that's key with anything, Everyone should engage in their own experiment of one. Like if you wear a wristband on your left wrist and it makes your back pain go away, I kind of don't care why it went away.
Right.
I just care that it went away,
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's an interesting struggle potentially with coaches.
Totally.
Is, because it is true. Yeah. I mean, in that N of one, I don't care, but then kind of like coming back to my own personal practice and wanting to better understand the mechanisms to appropriately apply them, now I do care, and I got to kind of balance that.
Totally. And where do you draw the line with placebo effect?
Yeah, totally.
It's a real thing, but it seems to be almost impossible to control. So it's interesting. But yeah, I definitely recommend, especially for coaches, that you at least have the decency to try something out yourself before you make someone else do it.
Totally.
Oh, yeah.
The decency. That's just please have the decency, guys.
Yeah.
Do you currently do you practice the Wim Hof breathing stuff regularly?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm just starting to incorporate his particular method of breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, it was rooted in the Buteyko method, which is something that I learned. Oh my gosh, how long ago was that? Maybe 5 years ago.
Okay.
So I was already hot to trot on breathing before I even heard of Wim Hof.
Right.
It's actually pronounced Vim, but
yeah.
I even have a little valve to practice resisted breathing. Let me be clear though, it is not to improve endurance. It is to specifically train the respiratory muscles. So the whole training mask business is total nonsense. It's not even a good idea for building endurance.
Yeah.
Yes. Preach it.
Oh, I'm not scared.
Well, and to me, I just see it as another barrier potentially, right? It's like, it's another way to just kind of to overwhelm me with choice and ultimately get in the way of executing movements and more of the essentials and fundamentals of my training.
Well, and actually it's even worse than that, because people are using this during sport-specific activities. So you see someone who's wearing this training mask and boxing at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So you have someone going through high-intensity exercise with restricted breathing. Now, the problem with that is endurance is related to two things. It's related to your VO2 max, so how well you can utilize oxygen, but it's even more related to how well you can relax your body and your breathing during that activity. So when your breathing is labored the entire time, you don't even give yourself an opportunity to find relaxation or a flow state in what you're doing.
Right.
I did a little experiment myself in jiu-jitsu where I would just nose breathe the whole time, no mouth breathing. I would even hold a little bit of water in my mouth to try to make me focus on breathing slow and controlled. And I found within a couple weeks even big endurance improvements just from learning how to control my breathing and control my relaxation better. So that's why, training masks and stuff like that are just really stupid.
So the mask really never allows you to adapt to.
Well, it's not a specific adaptation. You know, if you're gonna be doing scuba boxing, then it's probably great.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
But if that's not the case, then it'll probably be almost useless for you.
Yeah.
And I think too, it's just like this partition of, breaking things up. Oh, we see that, this works, so let's just try it by itself. And I think one thing that what you really do and what Jared and I are trying to do as well is like to see the person as a whole human and work with that and not cut parts apart to just focus on one thing.
Absolutely.
All right. Lastly here, what element, characteristic, or personality trait do you bring to coaching, mentoring, and or leading that people would least expect or may be seen as odd?
I guess I'm not very subtle. I'm pretty blunt, and I don't know. I'm trying to think of what people would be surprised. I'm pretty brutally honest, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And I guess brutally honest, matter of fact, whatever you want to call it. I kind of, I don't know. I guess that's basically it.
Yeah.
Just brutal honesty.
Tell it like it is. Yeah.
Saves time.
Oh, totally saves time.
Yeah.
Well, Max, thank you so much. Even enduring some of the technological hiccups with us here.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been really great. And I know I've gotten a lot out of, our conversation. I know our listeners will too. So thank you so much for spending time with us today. Where can people find more about you and stay in contact with you?
Well, if you Google Max Shank, I'm basically the only person with that name on the first several pages of Google. I'm at Max Shank on all social media stuff, and maxshank.com is my website. So very easy to remember, and there's lots of free information there depending on whether you're a little bit broken, ready for the next level, or just a beginner starting out. And I have all this free stuff partitioned off.
Fantastic. Keeping those tracks easily accessible and individualized. Love it.
Absolutely. You got to give people the right starting point.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Max. Enjoy the rest of your day, and until next time.
Thanks, guys, very much. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
Thanks.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Behind the Podium, Unveiling the Coach. If you have enjoyed what you listened to, head over to iTunes and leave us a review. More information on each episode and the podcast in general can be found at behindthepodiumpodcast.com. We'll catch you next time.